All right. Here we go, guys and gals. And boogity, boogity, boogity. Let's go racing, drivers.
Welcome back to the Loose Wheel Show. My name is Andrew Hazlett. Ethan Gutowski is actually present. I can actually give him a slap on the shoulder.
Yeah. What's up? First time in like 2-3 months. I don't know how time works, but first time in a long time that we are here recording together. I am back in Arizona, summer over, even though it's still a million degrees outside. Summer, at least as far as school is concerned, is over. The fall semester about to start up, and we're back.
Yeah. I just want to say, even though I haven't uploaded the last episode yet, Andrew, I want to give a shout to Zach for coming on in substitution for you, Ethan. So yeah, let's get right into the reviews.
And now for last week's race reviews.
The Watkins Glen, Tristan McKee, 15-year-old Tristan McKee won the ARCA race.
That's crazy.
Which people are starting to already compare him to Connor Zilisch.
After one win?
Yeah. So, it's way early in their career. I don't
want to take anything away from him because, that's crazy. And, he just turned 15 years old. He's, 15 in a week at that point in time. So, very, very impressive. But also, pump the brakes just a little bit. Come on now.
Yeah, and this was his first ARCA race. He did win it. An Aspire car, which I don't believe Spire has won an ARCA race yet this year or ever. Corey Day ran 2 races in the main ARCA series. One of them he in combination with the West, and one other standalone West race. Has the best finish of 7th, and a lot of people are saying, oh yeah, this kid's very good. But yeah, it's only 3 ARCA races before this. McKee did win it, so that's kind of very notable. Connor Zilisch in his debut finished 2nd. I think he wound up getting punted on the last lap at Watkins Glen. So we'll see if he can continue being successful at some of these short tracks. Probably going to go an ARCA East route sometime in the near future before he turns 18, and with a lot of part-time ARCA schedule as well. Yeah, he's got plenty of time to develop. Corey Heim won the truck race. Xfinity race, Connor Zilisch won. But he had to fall in victory lane off of his car.
Which
was
very scary.
Yeah, scary to watch. I don't know if you were watching live, but I was.
I wasn't watching live. I remember because you texted me saying Zilisch had a fall, and I was like, what? He tripped getting out of the car, and I mean that's essentially what happened. But even the way I thought that it would happen was nowhere near as bad as how it actually happened. I mean, what happened was he got up onto the, I don't know what you would call it, windowsill essentially. There's no window, but windowsill essentially, and somehow he got his foot stuck in the what do you call it? The latch door,
the window
thingy.
net.
The window net. I think is what he said on a podcast is what happened. Foot caught on something, and he fell pretty much on his head, neck, shoulder area. Looked like he could be super bad. I mean, he was basically not moving on the ground, so you immediately fear the worst. People were saying on Twitter never been so happy to hear that it was only a broken collarbone, because that could have been really, really bad. I mean, a broken collarbone is obviously still bad.
It's not sugarcoat it.
I don't think that there's really any way that he doesn't miss a few races. I mean, maybe I'm wrong, but that's something that you're gonna want to let heal, and you're not really gonna be able to drive a car, and while you're healing that. But could have been so much worse. Like, it's still going to have some potential consequences, which is really unfortunate. We were talking, Andrew and I were talking before we started recording, like, hopefully it doesn't, affect his, we all know that it's going to happen, or that it was going to happen anyway, that he was going to hop into that Trackhouse car for next year. Hopefully this doesn't, delay any plans. I mean, he's driving on top of the world, and, like, to any doubters, they're like, oh, he has the best car or whatever. Okay, so he's still beating literally everyone. He's not only, like, winning races, but when he's not winning, he's, always up there. Like, he's been extremely, extremely consistent. And on every type of track, too, over this, really ever since he missed that Texas race, also due to injury, he came back and he's been on another planet, really. Yeah. I mean, it's been very, very, very impressive. So, speedy recovery. Get well soon, Connor Zilisch.
Yeah, I think there's going to be a possibility of where he runs, like maybe runs until a caution happens at some of these races. When he first comes back, I don't know when that's going to be, but I think that's a possibility where he can earn points and then have a substitute driver come in. And that the way the NASCAR's rule book is that the driver who starts the car earns the points. So wherever he were to finish, or that driver were to finish, that would give him points, especially he's going to make the playoffs, but when those start. I think back to the really most significant case where we saw that back in the Xfinity Series around 2010. Denny Hamlin was at Sonoma. The Xfinity race was at Milwaukee. Cup practice and qualifying was happening at Sonoma. Hamlin gets on his helicopter. When they go to land at Milwaukee, there's no spot for him, so it takes him a little longer. So Eric Almirola, who started the race, or practice and qualifying, he started the race. And Joe Gibbs and Hamlin were all going to leave him in the car, but the sponsor, who was a local sponsor to that Milwaukee area, said, no, we want Hamlin in the car for our local race. So eventually they pull Almirola from the car, do a driver change that takes some significant time to do. I don't think they lost a lap, but Hamlin eventually won the race. But at the end of the day, Almirola earned the points, got the victory.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
And so so regardless, that could happen again, especially if this were to happen at a Daytona, where there's a lot of crashes. That could happen, depending on who they get in there as well. So regardless, one more thing I do want to mention: the end of that broadcast, I felt the feeling that I never like feeling, and that's the worst I felt after a broadcast ended since Ryan Newman's crash in 2020. That blowover in the 500. So yeah, that's a feeling I don't like feeling, and I don't want to feel it again. NASCAR's not going to outright ban drivers from doing that celebration of where you stand on the windshield. Shane Van Gisbergen didn't do it, but he just doesn't do that celebration anyway. So that's not not something to note. We'll see if some teams have reportedly banned it. Some, I don't know. Yeah. Regardless, there's one other thing in the Xfinity race.
Well, did you see what I know this isn't like on the document or anything, but did you see what SVG had to say about him and Zilisch coming together during that Xfinity race?
What?
He basically said that in his mind it's 50, it's half his fault, half Zilich's fault. If
that's a fair assessment.
If you weren't watching, Zilisch went wide off track, and when he came back on track, the two wrecked, and SVG was basically saying, I don't know what podcast or radio or wherever he said this, but he said that in every other motorsport, it's kind of on you, the driver that goes off track, to enter back onto the track safely. But in NASCAR, the way that it is, it's half the person's who went off track, it's half their job to get back on track safely and not cause a wreck, but also in NASCAR, if someone goes off track and they're getting on track, you need to give them space.
Mm-hmm.
He didn't give him space. Zilich also didn't relent, so the two came together. In my mind, I think it's more on Zilich, but if SVG is saying that it's 50-50, then I suppose you can say it's 50-50.
I think for both of them, it's kind of live and learn.
Yeah.
You make that mistake once, don't make it again twice.
Because for both of them, that is pretty much the first time, as
Yeah.
far as I know, that something like that has happened to either of them.
Yeah, it's one of those things where, Zilich ran off the track. He's got to get in safely. He could have slowed down, fell in behind line, but SVG was kind of on a little bit of weird line, so that was interesting. One more thing I do want to talk about is Austin Hill returned from his one race suspension at Iowa, and he appears, Ethan, that he didn't learn diddly squat.
That was an ugly wreck that he caused.
Coming out of the carousel, he was in the tire tracks of Michael McDowell. And then there's a runoff area that everyone takes, and you generally kind of follow the car or kind of go to the right-hand side if you want to try to make a pass, generally, especially on the lines that they were on. But Austin Hill decides, I want to go left and kind of force myself into a lane that doesn't exist. And he does that, and then there's grass coming, so you have to turn right to go back onto the racing surface from the runoff. And he turns right into McDowell, left rear hooks him, causes a huge crash.
Huge hit.
Multiple drivers. Ryan Ellis sustained a lot of damage on his front windshield. All drivers were okay. That's the main thing. Josh Bilicki went up in the air. Among others, William Sawalish was running well. He had a tire that ended his day that was run away. You can consider a loose wheel.
A loose wheel, you said.
I think there were 2 loose wheels off of McDowell's car. That's how bad the impact was. So yeah, Austin Hill clearly hasn't learned from his mistakes. NASCAR, I think, deemed this to be not intentional.
Which is insane, in my opinion.
Which I do think, they're probably right. But, and this is a very important but, Ethan. Laughing at myself. Considering a guy of Austin Hill, he has a reputation, Ethan, of being a hard racer, not afraid to wreck guys. Simple as that. After right rear hooking Almirola, which NASCAR deemed intentional, does this. I think intentional or not, that's still worth a suspension because the suspension is to make guys learn.
Yeah.
Right? And if he does this the very next race, that means he did not learn.
I think in the past regarding, driver penalties and all that, I've said, guys with reputations, you gotta look at every incident as its own individual moment. You can't let bias come in and skew your mind. That being said, like you said, Andrew, repeat offender, first race back from a suspension and he's pulling off something audacious like that, that might be a time where, and I'm sitting here talking about it, I'm not actually, making any decisions. But if I was someone in a position where I was making decisions, I think that would be a time where I would have to go against my own guidelines, because at some point you are just a danger to those around you. And that might sound harsh, but I mean, watch what's happened the last 2 times Austin Hill has been on track.
Yeah. And I go back to his statement earlier in March in Martinsville where he said, I want to be a leader in this garage.
Ha!
I've got something for you, Austin. A few weeks ago, I gave you the Arkham Breaks Moment of the Week. I got you one better, the Chicken Award, because you're full of chicken, you know what. So yeah, Austin Hill, and you know what race is next for the Xfinity Series, Ethan? Daytona.
Yeah.
So yeah, we're already 15 minutes in, which is crazy because we only talked about NASCAR feeder series.
Well, luckily there's
not much
else to talk about.
Because the NASCAR race itself was the shortest race of the, not including ARCA, in time-wise, the shortest length, which is kind of crazy because it has the most laps. But just not much happened. Ryan Blaney was on pole. He led for a little bit. Kyle Larson spins. He had a brake issue. We had green flag pit stops or some to kind of pit before the stage end, which is stupid and dumb, and I've said this multiple times, and I'm going to say it every time at a road course, how this is stupid and dumb, and it ruins the racing. I don't like it. I love when they had those races where we had no guaranteed cautions. Those are some of the best road course races that I've seen in my life for NASCAR. So, yeah. Anyway, Buescher went on to lead and then win Stage 1. Stage 2, some pit, but not Buescher or Ryan Preece, because Buescher was leading, but Ryan Preece passed him on the restart. Shane Van Gisbergen gets the lead. Josh Berry had a spin, and then we had some debris caution shortly after from that car. Some pit. SVG leads. Green flag pit stops for some. Blaney inherits the lead. John Hunter Nemechek spins, and Blaney wins Stage 2. Some more people pit from the stage caution, but not Ryan Blaney. He leads. Kyle Busch has a spin. McDowell spins Hocevar, which we're recording this on Thursday. I hope to get this out Friday, which we'll see. I don't know if I can execute that. But it's crazy how these two are teammates, and they still yet to talk about this incident. You should hash this out with your teammates, because
I'm surprised that the team hasn't made them.
That too, because your teammates are your biggest help in the NASCAR garage. Those are guys you can lean on. And the fact that these two are not helping each other, so to say, or kind of letting their egos get in the way, is going to be harmful for that Spire team, because Mike McDowell, he's a veteran, but I think he's still got a few more left in him. I think he's got 3, 4, maybe 5 plus years left. And Carson Hocevar, he's got the talent to be in the sport for a long time.
Yeah.
So it's crazy that those two haven't talked about that. There were some other incidents leading up to that, but regardless, Shane Van Gisbergen then got the lead. Had green flag pit stops. John Hunter Nemechek spins again. Brad Keselowski has a left rear tire go down, and then that was a caution, and Shane Van Gisbergen won. I give this race a 4 out of 10. And Ethan, last week I forgot to give the NASCAR, the organization of ineptitude. I did go on a long rant about how the next gen car sucks. Now I'm going to give them the NASCAR, give them again the same award that they already hold, because Ethan, they've been doing with restart zones on road courses, what they used to do for as long as I've known is have the restarts come off the final corner, which makes sense. But now, I think they did it at Chicago. I don't know if they did it at Mexico City. They might have. They did it. They didn't do it originally at COTA, but they did. I think the second and third round. And now they've done at Watkins Glen is they move the restart zone before the final corner, which I don't like. It's apparently what the Cup drivers want, but honestly, NASCAR, you got to just say, no, this makes a worse product. And because Cup drivers say, oh, we can't we have too many incidents in turn one on the restarts.
Tough, you know what?
Well,
You're supposed to be professional
get
race car
better.
drivers.
You're the ones driving the car. You all have the maturity to just say, hey.
Well, almost all.
Almost all drivers have the maturity to go in there and say, I'm not going to clean out the field. I'm going to just stay in spot. Not going to try a bonsai move on lap 2 or whatever. I don't know why NASCAR backs down. It makes the product so much worse because everyone's already strung out by the time they get to turn 1. That way at COTA, it made the race. I think it made the racing worse. At Chicago, it's made the racing not as good as it could be. They might have had the original race. I think they made the change mid race to do that with the wet weather, which I don't mind. But if it's a dry weather race, you all know what you're doing. You're all experienced.
Yeah.
You've been turning cars left and right for I don't know how many years of your life. It's not that hard. It's not that hard to just say, okay, I can do it on any old racing game. Not always, because I'm not very good. But the point being is that you guys are so much better, you should be able to control yourselves. But it's frustrating to me that NASCAR's just going to say yes to them at this place. Because, don't get me wrong, NASCAR should have input from the drivers. This point, not really. What we had was good. The fans liked it. Because who are you doing this for, Ethan? You're doing this for the fans and the sponsors, really, at the end of the day.
Yeah.
So the sponsors really don't care.
As long as the paint scheme looks pretty.
Yeah. And the fans, they're the ones that care. They should be the driving force behind what they're doing here. So I don't like it. I think it produced just not a good product. I gave the race a 4 out of 10. I think last year was granted it's a different race, different year. Things obviously played out differently, but I think I gave that race like an 8.5 out of 10. What's the big change last year to this year? That. So
I want to ask you something, though,
okay.
Andrew. I'm trying to find what year it was. I believe it was 2019 when Chase Elliott won Watkins Glen.
Yeah.
And I saw people on Twitter, or I saw one tweet anyway, saying that in that person's opinion, this race this year and that year, or one of the years that Chase Elliott won Watkins Glen.
I think it was the one that he won his first race. I don't remember what year was that.
2018. They said that in their mind, that race was pretty much the same, but fans viewed that race a lot better than they did this race, in that person's opinion anyway. And they were saying that they feel that people are, and it's been a common theme, people are for some reason tired of SVG winning.
Mm-hmm.
Do you think that you and other people are downplaying this race because of SVG fatigue?
I am not, because I just think the product was bad. I gave it a 4 out of 10. I'm going to actually pull up my sheet where I do keep all the ratings I have, because I find this stuff interesting. So the races that he's won, Chicago street race I gave a 6.5. Mexico City I gave a 6.5. what was the other road course race? Sonoma, which I gave a 4.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't think that was a good race either. So I've been giving this fair. I'm going to kind of counterpoint that as maybe fans like Chase Elliott. Elliott's everyone's is the fan favorite. So I think that has something to do with it. I don't think this race was terrible, but it wasn't good. It was below average. Yes. Yeah. So I don't know. I remember that race happening because I was driving back from San Diego that day.
Okay.
I believe that was a race I got to watch a little bit of. But regardless, I think that those races were on NBCSN, and at that point I didn't have NBCSN in my life. So regardless if I was driving back or not, I don't think I would have been able to watch that race at that time. Now, and that was a time where I didn't really care about NASCAR as much as I did. So I don't know that race off the top of my head, but yeah, at the end of the day, I think fans are complaining too much because we all knew why SVG came here. It's to win road courses.
Yeah. As someone once said, people love to complain.
Yeah, Joey Logano. But I think it's don't blame the driver, blame the package. Package, regardless, is not good. Granted, we did get a great finish last year with SVG and Chris Buescher. I think that why we got a great finish last year because SVG wasn't in these cars week in and week out. And now that he's seeing these this Watkins Glen for now the second time, and in these cars a week in, week out, and he knows more intricacies, he's a lot better. He does two things differently than the rest of the field does. Heel toe braking and using the clutch, and different ABS settings for each corner. I don't know how those two factors, Ethan, go into his success, how much those help him, versus natural talent. I would imagine a lot. I don't know what does more, but if I'm someone in the Cup field, you gotta try it. Because you finish second to this guy how many times? A lot. Or third or fourth or whatever.
Yeah.
That's how you're going to have to beat him. You aren't going to beat him in the old way. The new way came along, and this is how you got to do it.
It also seems like there's always one or two guys in NASCAR at any given time that are just heads above the rest on road courses. Mm-hmm. And right now, SVG is kind of in a league of his own, but, as soon as next year, potentially Connor Zillage could be giving him a run for his money. Mm-hmm. So, I think that, SVG's a fairly popular driver, but, when you see, like Larson win, 6 races a year, he has a huge fan base, you don't hear the complaining as much. And I don't know. It was just something I thought was a little interesting because I don't think you can really complain about a guy in NASCAR winning 5 or 6 races out of the year just because of how many races NASCAR has.
Yeah. Everyone knows the system.
Yeah. That's another thing.
It's the same thing as the
Josh Berry is only 1 spot ahead of SVG, and no one's complaining about Josh Berry in the standings, but everyone's complaining about SVG. I don't get it.
Yeah, it's the same thing that NASCAR fans irk me with the playoffs. Say, oh, so and so's not a legitimate winner. Everyone knows the system. People are racing differently compared to what they would in a normal in your traditional
when
systems.
We were at Phoenix for the championship race, Joey Logano said as much, you can just like the system, you can say that a driver who had an average finish position of 17 shouldn't be champion. That's opinions that we both have, but also he plays the system perfectly, and he admits yeah, if it was a different system, we would be doing things differently. But because this is the system, this is how we do it.
Yeah.
And you know what? Kind of hard to argue with that. I disagree with the system, but don't hate the player, hate the game.
Yeah. And I look, Wood Brothers with their only one win, Josh Berry. Josh the Wood Brothers, who's that team, a really satellite team of Penske. Yeah, I think over the last few months, since really they won in March, they've been figuring out, okay, how are we going to be good in the playoffs? From races, I think that was race, I want to say 4. I could be wrong there. All right, so from after race 5 to 26 don't matter. We got to just figure out how we can be good in races 27 to 36. And you can hate that all you want, which is fine. I don't blame you. I kind of do too. But they're just doing what they can do, what's best for them. So, yeah. So going over to IndyCar. Indy next winner was Dennis Hauger. I'm actually going to give the organization an aptitude to 2 different organizations this week, mind you, Ethan, because I forgot I was giving to one person. So Christian Lundgaard has won the pole, but has an engine penalty, a grid drop of 6 positions. So Pato O'Ward started first. So I was watching both races delayed because I was doing something before, led me into the NASCAR window, and then I went over to watch the IndyCar, and it started in lap 7. So I already delayed it because of Live Golf. And Ethan, I know you don't know much about Live Golf, but I'm gonna go on the record and say I hate it with a passion. Big X the Plug, he has a song about being the biggest, the largest. Well, I'm the biggest hater of Live Golf there might be on planet Earth, mind you, because Ethan, I look at what happened in IndyCar in the 90s, how IndyCar was CART and they split in 2. The fans basically dropped, if you combine the totals, it dropped significantly.
Yeah.
And IndyCar has not got back to the point where they once were 30 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
And now this quote unquote, oh, we're the parties bros of golf, yada yada yada. I think it's going to do the same thing. And quite frankly, I don't like where the money's coming from. I don't like who's leading it. I don't like the first public golfer in Phil Mickelson who jumped on that train well before that train even left the station. I think what they're doing, how they're doing with no cuts is a detriment to the game of golf, where everyone's guaranteed in. I think only playing 3 rounds instead of 4 is terrible. I don't like it. One thing I will say I do like.
Phil Mickelson gets a pass though because he's a Sun Devil.
He's known to be a terrible human being.
Oh, is he actually?
Yeah.
Oh,
We can talk about that
never mind
after
then.
the show later, because I'm not going to get into too much of sub-rant, but I will say the one thing I do like is how that's allowed the PGA guys to get more money. And I kind of do like the team aspect. I'd like to see that being on the PGA Tour more, but as a whole, what they're trying to do is it's taking the game of golf backwards, in my opinion. So the fact that Fox carries at 1 makes me very angry. And number 2, I couldn't see the 7 first laps of the IndyCar race. Annoyed me more. So anyway, Pato O'Ward is leading. What I didn't get to see was Santino Ferrucci crashing.
I want to say this before we get too far into the actual review itself. It's kind of crazy how fast the excitement of Fox being the home of IndyCar, the excitement of that has plummeted. Because at the beginning, like, you were seeing like all these cool graphics, all these ads that you know were generating a ton of buzz, and we're not even through the first year of the TV deal, and everyone has, you know, I'd say fairly rightfully so, kind of turned their back to Fox. Fox has kind of had some laughers in terms of production in recent weeks, without even, you know, getting into what you were saying about, you know, the whole Live Golf thing affecting anything. But now we're getting that too, and it's something.
I wouldn't say Fox IndyCar. It's a definite, I will say, step down from NBC was, but it's significant. I think through drivers, not drivers, but broadcast, graphics, pit road, technical direction as well, graphics, which is really the commercials, which is basically the whole broadcast. I don't know where they've taken a step up. I will say Bob Pockrass now covers IndyCar.
That's nice.
So
I think that the
I will
broadcast
give him-
team has been pretty solid. I feel like.
I'd prefer Lee Diffie to Will Buxton.
Sure.
But Will Buxton has done a good job. Lee Diffie is a truly one of a kind broadcaster. I think he's the best play-by-play guy in all of motorsports right now. But regardless, Will Buxton has done a good job, I will say. I can tell he is very passionate
Yeah.
about IndyCar, which is not something I was expecting to the extent that it is from a guy who's been in Formula One his whole career. I part of me was thinking he might have a snobby attitude that some F1 fans do, but I did know he has been to IndyCar events in the past, which said, when I heard this, I said, okay, that wouldn't be my first choice, but I think he could be good. I'll see. And he's been good. I will say that. They've left Hinch and Bell up there, which I think are a dynamic duo. I think they're both very good, except for Townsend Bell's random glaze of Santino Ferrucci, which I don't understand. But afterwards, anyway, going back to the review where Santino Ferrucci crashed, I wasn't able to see that. Apparently a few people pitted. This is where I came in. Pato O'Ward was leading, green flag, and then Foster and VK got spun by Kiffin and Rahal respectively. I don't think there are penalties for that, but regardless, that turn one's been kind of a chaos place for Portland. And then later in the run, we saw Christian Lundgaard and Connor Daly go off. They lost a few positions. And later, Lundgaard spins Connor Daly off, who has a big crash. So that's your ARCA Brakes moment of the week. And shout out Fox for almost missing that crash too, because we were looking at them, and the broadcasts are like, oh, something could happen here. And then they cut away to a few positions ahead where you can still see him lurking in the background. But yeah, and then you kind of cut back to him, and then you saw that we didn't have any good angles of that crash, which is kind of crazy. But yeah, I'm not quite sure what Christian Rasmussen was thinking there. He kind of, similarly to Austin Hill, hooked him in the left rear, which caused a spin. Thankfully, it was only Connor Daly that crashed, and he was okay. But regardless, crazy to me how IndyCar didn't penalize Rasmussen, which I fear might set us a new precedent of saying, okay, yeah, we're not gonna penalize guys for crashing other guys, which is something, whether that be intentional or not, they've sometimes not cared. You get a pass-through penalty for that, typically, whether intentional or not. But that looked close to intentional. The fact that they said no penalty, I have an issue with that. And I don't know why people are mad for Connor Daly tweeting at Christian Rasmussen mid-race. Bro's frustrated. It's heat of the moment. He wasn't tweeting at fans. He's tweeting at a driver. Drivers can deal with drivers however they want to. They're the ones driving the car, you're not. Anyway, most people pit. Will Power inherited the lead. Pato O'Ward had an electrical issue that ruined his race. He fell a few laps down before continuing. Green flag pit stops for leaders, which Power was able to come out from with the lead. The other leaders, which were, I think, the other Penske guys, were up there. They fell further back. Then we had another green flag pit stops for the whole field was Power, Lundgaard, Palou, the podium. Green flag pit stops again. Scott Dixon spun Joseph Newgarden, which they gave a penalty for Dixon for. Just Newgarden was on track for a decent finish, not the best, but his no good season continues. Again, Power, Lundgaard, Palou, podium after stops. Dixon got that drive through that I mentioned. Lundgaard and Palou have a good battle for second, right behind Power. They're trying to pass. Their lap cars were in that battle. It was kind of a 3-car battle, but Lundgaard just didn't have the speed to get up to Power. Stay right in his tire tracks, didn't have the speed. I don't think it's a package issue. But Lundgaard eventually shoved Palou off, kind of maybe unintentionally, but not egregious at all. Which Palou didn't lose a position, but it was Power, Lundgaard, Palou podium. And Palou was your champion. I give the race 5 out of 10. It was okay. Yeah. Now into the news, finally.
And now for the news.
Into the news.
Shane Van Gisbergen, Trackhouse Racing, Rach multi-year contract extension, which at this point makes sense. He's able to compete for wins and championships. What's not to like about this extension? We'll see how he can do well, if he can do well on the ovals. So yeah, I mean, let me look at his playoff points, because looking at that right now, if the playoffs were to happen today, because that is, you only have a few races left. I think it's 2 races left. Might be 3. I don't know. My math, I think it's 2. But regardless, the playoff standings for the Cup Series, Shane Van Gisbergen has 22 playoff points. Right now, 13th place has 6. No, yes, that's right, 6. Don't know why I have that in order by points, but that's annoying. Anyway, so 6 points for 13th place. That is a 14-point advantage at this point. So Shane Van Gisbergen would have to perform fairly average to advance out of this round of 16 with this 14-point advantage, because there's probably going to have guys struggling. If he just has like a 17th place average finish, he'll be fine. And then that means he advances in to the next round, where there's Charlotte Roval, which he could win it. It's a road course. So he could, Ethan, very easily be a round of 8 guy this year.
Yeah.
It's not too far-fetched. And then...
I think that'd be cool to see.
No. Yeah, some people on the internet would have.
Yeah, there's a lot of NASCAR fans on the internet that say a lot of things. There's a lot of just motorsports fans in general on the internet that need some brain rearranging, but you know what? It's okay. You want to know why it's okay, Andrew? Because we have a microphone in front of our face, which means we're right in there wrong.
Yeah, and we're accomplished journalists.
Well, we've certainly covered more NASCAR races than the vast majority of geniuses on the motorsports interwebs.
Yeah. I think if we were ever to get like a soundboard, Ethan, the number one dial would be Joey Logano saying, "People love to complain."
Yeah.
And probably somewhere on the rest would be the full version of it. Anyway, speaking of complaining, Ethan, which I found this.
Eye roll.
I found this to be quite hilarious. Kyle Larson went on Julian Edelman's podcast. Speaking of podcasts, and
we'll give a shout out to the little guys.
Was not a fan. He said not a fan of Talladega Nights and the Martinsville hot dog, 2 NASCAR staples.
You know, I don't really have any comment on the Martinsville hot dogs, but you know, after you say what he said about Talladega Nights, I'd like to offer a rebuttal.
Larson says, "I like the movie." It's about where the positivity ends. I think it did not do anything good for our sport. I think it turned our sport into like a joke, unfortunately. But I feel like the rest of the world, that's what they think about our sport now. So that's interesting. I know SVG on a pod, I think it was Corey LaJoy Stacking Pennies, where he said Talladega Nights is not a movie. It's a documentary.
Yeah, he said that like the week prior.
That was a long time ago where he
Was
said
it?
that. But regardless,
Here's my rebuttal.
go ahead.
And it's not even about the fact that he doesn't like Talladega Nights, which is an amazing movie.
He said he liked the movie.
My rebuttal, Mr. Kyle Larson. Do you know what doesn't do anything good for the sport? One of the most popular drivers dropping the N-word to an audience of thousands. That is what doesn't do any good for the sport. And like SVG said, I think that there is a lot to show that, you know what is in Talladega Nights. Obviously, it's a comedy movie and things are taken out of, are thrown out of proportion. And most people are smart enough to realize that. But they say there's a little bit of truth in every joke. And I think that's fair to say with Talladega Nights. There is a reputation that NASCAR has. And it's not like Talladega Nights came around and created these stereotypes out of nowhere. They existed before. They'll continue to exist after. It's not because of the movie. People think this way about NASCAR because of tons and tons and tons of other things, not just a comedy movie. Like, that's insane to point your finger at Talladega Nights, in my personal opinion.
I will say, yeah, maybe it did set the sport back a little bit, but so what?
I think in some ways it even showed the sport in a better light than maybe, it actually is.
Like, for me, who cares about the past? It's about moving forward.
Moving forward to Martinsville hot dogs.
Yeah, Martinsville hot dogs. He didn't like the Martinsville hot dogs, which Martinsville is very famous for, by the way. If you didn't know. He said they're like, I don't know if they have color dye in them or what, but they're like red. He said he didn't like them.
What does Kyle Larson like?
I don't know.
besides sprint races on dirt. What does he like?
I don't know. He did say he liked Days of Thunder, the movie.
Days of Thunder. Okay.
But regardless, I've yet to go to the entire. I actually have been to Virginia. I've not been to Martinsville or the Martinsville Speedway, which is not in Martinsville. Quite contrary to its name. It's in Ridgeway, I believe. But regardless, it is in Ridgeway. So kind of hilarious that. But regardless, it's funny to me. Just how he doesn't like things. But anyway, let's get into F1 ramblings, Ethan.
Yeah. So, Andrew, you know how the 2026 season hasn't even started yet?
Yeah, I do know that.
Well, McLaren is going to be auctioning their F1 car and an LMDH hypercar and IndyCar and just a whole lot of cars going to auction. And like I said, that 2026 F1 car that hasn't even raced yet, which is kind of crazy, but for those who follow just the world of cars beyond motorsports, you will probably know that it's Monterey Car Week, which, if you don't, is a yearly event hosted in Monterey, California, where companies unveil new cars, owners celebrate their crazy expensive cars. It's like rich person car Disneyland for a week.
Mm-hmm.
And that's where Zach Brown said in an announcement that they're going to be auctioning all these cars. I think that's kind of interesting, I guess. Like I don't really have too much of an opinion on it. I think it's a little weird.
I
but
think it's cool.
good way to make money.
Yeah.
I mean, it's cool if you're the billionaire that gets to buy it, but like, why wouldn't McLaren want to keep these, cars for their collection, right?
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. Zach Brown's a businessman, doing businessman things.
Mm-hmm.
On to the next piece of news. Obviously, Christian Horner was sacked a while ago at this point, but he has now been officially removed from Red Bull F1 as a director about a month after he was removed from being the team principal. So what this means is that, an agreement was probably made for them to part ways, because of course they had a contract, and I doubt that there was a clause that just said, yeah, at any point in time we can fire you. So it seems that what motorsport.com is saying is that they reached some sort of deal, because he was still, on paper as an employee of Red Bull F1. And now all ties have been severed. Goodbye, Christian Horner. I wonder what the future holds. Then, next up, nothing official has been announced, so technically still a rumor. So technically, I should advise you to take this with a grain of salt.
I don't have any salt on me. I have some at home.
But Sergio Perez, it's been reported by Planet F1 that Sergio Perez has come to an agreement to join Cadillac for 2026, and an announcement is expected to come on the weekend of the Italian Grand Prix, which is around the 5th of September, and that Valtteri Bottas, Felipe Drugovich, and McLaren Jr., Alex Dunn, however you say his name, are all under consideration for the second seat. Alex Dunn has kind of emerged as another...
Did I hear Valtteri Bottas' name or no?
Yes.
Okay.
So the McLaren Jr., Irishman,
I will say that's in 4 weekends from now.
Yeah.
We're recording this before NASCAR Richmond, so
yeah.
Don't know when this will be published. Hopefully tomorrow.
Alex Dunn has kind of been a new name in the rumor mill for Cadillac, but at this point, if you haven't been, tied to Cadillac at least once, are you even a serious race car driver? I like the move of Checo going to Cadillac. I think we can all see now that, he was doing his best in a Red Bull that's really, really hard to drive if your name isn't Max Verstappen. Obviously,
or Franz Hermann.
Obviously, Checo isn't a top of the line F1 driver, but he can be a very, very solid leader of a team like Cadillac, who will be trying to fight to just get themselves established as a team. He can definitely lead a team to create a good foundation and set a team up for the future. And for him, this gives him a good way back into F1, where he can either leave to a better team or just continue to ride up the grid with Cadillac should everything work out well. I would really love that move. I mean, we can talk more about it when it's officially announced, but yeah, I think it makes perfect sense.
Yeah. I do too. That's what I've been saying from the beginning. I don't have much else to say about that.
Yeah.
Getting into the previews now, Ethan.
And now for next week's race previews.
Richmond, for the Cup Series, you have 2 open entries this week. You got Jesse Love in the 33, Corey Heim in the 67. Truck Series, we have a lot of drivers changing, so bear with me here. We can talk about some of that. Brent Cruz is in the 1 for Tricon. Nick Lights is in the 02 for Youngs. Rayom Brothers 2 and 22 are Clayton Green and Stephen Malazzi as expected. Spire Motorsports has been 4 cars this whole year. Now they got rid of the 07. Sammy Smith is in the 7. Corey LaJoie is in the 77, replacing Andres Perez de Lara. who had a contract for this year. He's kind of underperformed a little bit. That's kind of a little bit shocking. The owner points from the 77 were sold to the 16 McAnally Hilgeman Racing team, which is new this week, which is being driven by Christian Eckes. For Nice Motorsports, Andres Perez de Lara is in the 44, Bailey Curry, where he will be in the rest of the year, alongside Matt Mills in the 42, which has been full-time. That's not new. Bailey Curry, who will also be in the 45 for the rest of the year, who replaced Caden Honeycutt, and Matt Gold will be in the 41, which is being revived as now, I guess, a part-time truck. I don't know if they're going to run that more often now or at all more. So we'll see. We might see that more. I don't know. That'll be interesting to watch for that. Caden Honeycutt is in the 52 now for the rest of the year. So a lot of silly season 2026 trucks implications already happening now. You don't really see this often, so that's kind of notable. You've got Luke Fenhouse in the 66 for Thor Sport. 67 is Ryan Roulette for Freedom Racing Enterprises. Mike Harmon Racing is entering the 74 for Caleb Costner. Cook Racing Technologies is bringing their 84 for Patrick Starpoli, the doctor. 97 for CR7 is going to be Carson Quapple.
Not Cristiano Ronaldo.
No.
Maybe next week.
I don't know if you saw, Ethan, on the team's main truck, the 9. Because Cody Rarbar, the team owner, his ties to Grant County Mulch. I don't know if that's his company, his dad's company, or whoever. So that's been on the car for Enfinger for a handful of races this year. They're doing a partnership with the West Virginia Athletics to become the official mulch supplier, which is something new.
Okay.
And that there's a cross between that to NASCAR. That's going to be on the 9 truck this week.
West Virginia
partnership
themed car
with mulch, Grant County Mulch. So that's something. You see new things, and I'm just going to point out because
I will be giving that car a Pat McAfee out of 10.
We don't do trucks, so.
Perfect then.
There you go. Anyway, into the 5 drivers I give you to watch out for. Kyle Busch, he's won there 6 times, Ethan. I didn't realize that. I knew he was good there, but that's 6 times. It's a lot more than I thought.
Can Kyle Busch make it 7?
Okay. Anyway,
no one.
Into the rest of the 5. Denny Hamlin, he's won there 5 times. Joey Logano won there twice alongside Brad Keselowski and Kyle Larson. Each won there twice. Some honorable mentions. Alex Bowman won there once alongside Chris Buescher and Austin Dillon. And that great act of racing we saw last year, which did not get him into the playoffs because NASCAR said no. The data, which is a newer segment, newer piece of information based on previous races there. Only one race there that it got an 8 last year, so could be a good race, but last year, that crazy finish, and we also had 2 different tire compounds. I don't think we have that this year, so expect that number to be a little lower regardless. So into pick points.
And now for next week's race picks.
There was a winner guessed each time for each race last week correctly. So great job, us. Zach was the guest last week, as I mentioned, so he did guest picks, as one might assume. You and I had Dennis Hauger winning Indy next race, which he did, and we also had Alex Blow winning the Indy car race at Portland, which he did. Zach had Corey Heim winning the truck race, which he did. You and Zach had Connor Zillage winning the Watkins Glen Xfinity race, which he did. We all had Shane Van Gisbergen winning the Cup race at Watkins Glen, which he did. So 15 points from Zach and I, You had 20, Ethan. You extend your lead now to 22 points. You're 255 to 233. Guess at 207. So, guess kind of a little bit ways back. This, Ethan, is the biggest lead you've had on me since week 18, 10 weeks ago. And that was 23. So, I'm falling back right now. Last few weeks I've dropped. So I need to turn this car around. And going into pick points, we had Giuliano. I don't think he's been on the show yet.
He's picked before.
But he's picked before. Has not a good record in the one weekend he's picked this year. So let's see if he can prove. But Truck Series, him and I went Corey Heim. Heim has been good everywhere. Won last week, is always good. And looking at the rest of the field, I didn't really like anyone. Didn't really any like out of these other guys. Maybe Christian Eckes, but I'm not going to go out on a limb. I'm going to stay close to the trunk of the tree.
Yeah. I'm picking the reigning Truck Series champion, Ty Majeski. He still hasn't won a race this year, which is very surprising to me. But you know what he has done, Andrew? The first time he raced at Richmond in the Truck Series, he finished third. Mm-hmm. You want to know what happened the second time he raced there? He finished second. And then the third time, the last time, he finished first. Now, you can't finish any higher than that, so I expect him to do it again.
Yeah, it's a possibility, but I will say, yeah, he hasn't won any races this year. But if you look at his, 6 career wins, all but one of them has been at tracks less than a mile in length.
Yeah.
A mile or less. So he's a guy to do it. But Corey Heim is also very, very good. I think that's a solid pick, but I don't think it's the best pick. Going over to the Cup Series, Gasco and Christopher Bell, always good at the short tracks, I think.
Pretty good everywhere, really.
Kind of good everywhere. I think leans more to the shorter tracks, but regardless, that's a good pick from Giuliano. But Ethan and I, we went on the same wavelength. Denny Hamlin, 5-time winner there, as we said in ours. I said in the 5. He's just a very good driver, good at the short tracks, his home track. I think he should be a force. Should have won there last year, but Austin Dillon decided to commit a minor act of terrorism. I guess some about driving for RCR when your name's Austin, I guess. I don't know.
Yeah, wow.
Regardless, I don't know if you have anything to say about your Denny Hamlin pick as well.
I mean, you said it. He's pretty freaking good there. And I mean, I remember this season, you had doubts about Denny. I had no doubts this year. I thought that he was going to have just as good of a year this year as he's been having in recent years. I didn't think that, obviously he lost a good crew chief, but, I didn't think that he was going to have a bad year. And he's had a really, really good year, and this, very easily could be another win for him. Mm-hmm. But I think, Andrew, unless you have anything else to say, that is all.
Mm-hmm. That's all.
That's all.
Thank you for tuning in. This is the Loose Wheel episode number 32.
Yeah.
Goodbye.
Before we go, kids, remember, Teo Porcher always deserves more.
To me, it looked like he actually lost the wheel.
The wheel for Ross Chastain is still and perfect.
Wheel on the track.
Did you leave the wheel loose?
You picked a fine time to leave me loose, wheel.